Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, the YouTube channel and podcast that is made by Celtic fans all over the world for Celtic fans all over the world. From Dumfries to Dundee, come Loudon to Coldstream. Wherever you happen to be watching, you're very much part of A Celtic World. And tonight we're joined by two of the heavyweights of the channel. We'll say hello to Ian, first of all, in Wales. How's it going, Ian?
I'll take the heavyweight in the positive term, although I do have to say I'm becoming a bit more of a heavyweight, as it's that time of year, isn't it? You need to put on your festive weight. So I've been sampling lots of little bits and pieces. And I was telling you before we went on air, it's the first day of my holidays, so I'm off until the 6th. So I hope to make a good, I've got cheese coming and all that sort of stuff. So I hope to make a good effort at putting on a wee bit.
Cheese coming sounds delicious. Paul, how are you?
Regularly get called a heavyweight, so no difference even at this time of year. Going on holiday for those 2.5 weeks in November, early December, started the silly season early. So I'll be on some sort of strict regime come the new year as usual. But mad rush to get back from work. Last day in the office today, working tomorrow, but from home. So not quite in holiday mode completely, but this time of year you're barely fully engaged in the work environment. So looking forward to what I imagine will be some wallowing in revelry after the weekend, which not had a chance to share with you lads yet.
What about you, Gav? How are you, Gav?
Nobody cares how I am. I'm just the host.
How are you?
Yeah, good point. How are you, Gav?
I'm okay.
You seem to fit well into that wetsuit, so obviously not right into the holiday wear just yet.
Well, I mean, going on a boat where you're sort of in a state of semi-nakedness several times a day to get in and out of wetsuits, it does really focus the mind. So I am definitely on a health kick from January as well. There's no doubt about it.
Everyone is.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of whether it lasts for 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years or forever. Yeah.
Well, until that time comes, let's eat, drink, and be merry and celebrate all that's worth celebrating. And certainly, all of the stuff that's happened recently to us as Celtic fans is worth celebrating. So this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be enjoying the meltdown. I don't have a whole load of things to play or show. I just want to talk to you guys about it, really. What we enjoyed most to see, and how we sort of feel about the whole thing, what's going on. Anyway, that's point number one. Point number two, how are we doing as a team, our recent form, all that kind of stuff, and whether the January window is now becoming, well, something that we need more than maybe we thought we did some time ago when everything was absolutely firing on all cylinders. And then we're going to preview the Dundee United game. So that's the plan. So I put up a few comments there a moment ago. Hello to everyone who's in there. There's a lot of people in the chat. Chat is going off. Lots of positive energy. Boys and girls of A Celtic World are all in there chatting away to each other. So, what did I say we were going to start with there? Oh, reveling in the victory.
The meltdown.
Well, it's fair to say we've enjoyed the cup final victory much more since the game than during it, or at least I speak for myself. I did not enjoy the game one little bit. I was absolutely knackered. I'd flown in from another country about an hour before kickoff, said hello to my family. Everyone went to bed. I stayed up, knowing I was on the school run at 5:30, and I was cream crackered, and I just sort of watched it in a state of sort of passive disbelief and just thinking and feeling incredibly negative the whole time, as Paul may have picked up on from our WhatsApp chat. Anyway, tell me, Paul, what were the circumstances in which you watched the game and your enjoyment level?
Well, I didn't love the performance, but I had the benefit of significantly more libations and my general more sunny demeanour than yours. Couple those together, and generally it wasn't as bad as it was for you. So I met my good friends Anthony, Dave, and Danny for a bit of dinner about 8 p.m. in the city. We had a few pints of Guinness in one Irish pub. We had a bit of dinner. We wandered up to the Celtic Supporters Club. Bit of live music, a couple more pints. Eventually, kickoff comes at 11:30. Reasonably warmed up at that point. And obviously, the beers keep going. And there was a moment where, near the end of the game, where they cut the bar off, and I was like, hang on a minute. And then I came back about 10 minutes later when it got to 3. That was 2-2, and then it was 3-3, and we went into extra time. And suddenly the bar was back open again. Funny that. So yeah, we managed to get a few more pints, or at least one more round to see us through extra time and penalties. So yeah, not great. But as I've said before on this, with these early to late kick or evening to late kickoffs, a few pints takes the edge off. It really does. The stress levels come down as the amount of pints you take up going. But yeah, we got it done, which is all that matters. I've got a philosophical view on this whole thing, which we'll get into in a bit. But yeah, your circumstances sound way worse than mine. And generally, I think problem shares a problem halved, and being in a room of 200-300 Celtic fans in the same boat with a few pints kind of helps, I think.
Oh, I'm sure it does. And you were in the Rummer Tavern, were you not, in Swansea? Yeah.
In Cardiff. Cardiff.
Cardiff.
Yeah, no, in the Rummer Tavern, it was packed actually. You know, but the thing is, it's like the kind of axis of doom, isn't it? It's like Christmas time, weekend. You know, there's a lot of people that can make the bargain that the better half can go and do the shopping, whilst you go and like see the game. So it was like, and people were visiting and stuff like that. So it was like, it was really packed. I think I might have mentioned on here before. Do you know what? I'm chilled for majority of games. You could be playing Real Madrid, Barcelona, Dundee, Falkirk, and I'm relatively the same sort of temperament. The only game I'm not are the ones against the old version of Rangers or this new version of Rangers, because I just, I say this with my best man and my best friend being a Rangers fan. Like, so I appreciate this. So I make exceptions for him, but the majority of that fan base, I dislike, and I don't want them to have any joy. I don't even want them to have, like, so that when I go into these games, it's not just that I want us to win, because I do, because I, obviously want Celtic to win every game, but there's just that added thing that you want them to have absolutely nothing. You don't even want them to have, like, to win a throw-in, like that sort of thing. So it's always like a bit heightened for me. I'd be no good drinking, to be honest with you, Paul, because it would just make me even worse. But like you said, there's something about being in a room full of, Celtic fans, because you've got a couple of people that are the same as you, that, like, a couple of you that aren't celebrating any of the penalties, like I wasn't, because I was like, let's just, we win it and then celebrate. And a couple of people celebrating every single penalty and getting involved. My heart rate monitor on my watch was just like, it was all in the red for like that last half and into penalties. So
very good. Very good. Well, you're both talk about being in a room full of Celtic fans, and like, it is a brilliant time, obviously, to be a Celtic fan. And this season, as I said on Monday's show, like, so far, so incredibly good. And we'll talk about our form in a little bit while, but talk about mission accomplished. It's just amazing. So it's great to have seen how well we've done. It's great to see our players out enjoying themselves. I'm sure you've all seen this photograph of the boys down the darts. You both seen this? Does this tickle you, Paul?
Oh, well, I think some of the stuff with that is, I think if we take, because there's two things, there's There's Your Dinner, which is another one of the photos, and then there's the 119. I think it's funny, because I think it was actually the 20-minute Tims, one of the boys in the 20-minute Tims said, like, Rangers had created this whole imaginary world's most successful club in the world title. They'd plastered it and everything. Their songbook is basically half based in that sort of stuff, just completely made up. And they've actually lost their made up title. And what they said he said something along the lines of, it's like, your imaginary girlfriend leaving you. And that's what it is. So I don't think there's any Celtic fan that genuinely believes we're the world's most successful club, or even cares that it's 119 and things like that. But by God, for this season, let's just enjoy it and rip the arse out of it, because I tell you one set of fans that annoys, and it's them. I said this morning, I put a post in X, I said, it's so funny, because if they play Simply the Best at Ibrox, none of them can sing that without really deep down feeling miserable, because they know they're not. By any measure, apart from if you want to say you're the best at being dafties, and it's magical, and it's nice to see the players getting involved.
Well, the thing is, by their measure, we are now the most successful club in the world, and it's completely made up, like you say. But they've created the fact that we are now, in their eyes, the world's most successful. I agree with you. It's an absolute nonsense. Nobody cares about the number, but we will 100% go deep on it to noise them up. And you've already seen idiots on social media from their side calling that Glasgow Cup win from the other night. It's now 119 each. And then they're adding back in the Petro Cup and the other bits of the lower league titles. And then I saw somebody saying it was 122 to them to 109. I was like, Jesus, they're hurting. Like, if you're coming up with that shit, you are hurting beyond belief.
But Paul, it has real world effects if you think about it, because they've actually, like, they've put it on like their tour on the wall. It has to come down. Yeah. Like, it's so mad that they've created this thing, they've put it everywhere, and now they're actually going to have to go in and take physical bits and pieces down. It's wonderful. It's very enjoyable. And
given they couldn't afford to pay a face painter, can they afford an actual painter to cover over that stuff, both internal and external? It's a bit of a concern for them, surely.
I like how 1888 CFC puts it there. They're now in a cage built by their own hand. Very good. Very true. Yeah, well, there's been a lot of meltdown going on, as we know. You know, day after day, there's more and more outrage and shouting and demanding answers. Where are we with all of this? Who wants to, broach this subject? Now, I see in places, I haven't seen it officially, but somewhere it says that Willie Collum is saying, indeed, it was a mistake. He may not be explaining it by saying there was an initial foul. It was the whistle went for when the leg went in. The pull happened thereafter. What happens thereafter means nothing, so it's irrelevant. That was what was proffered by some people as the explanation. I was thinking, well, if that's the explanation, then that's watertight. But is that the explanation? Have you seen Willie Collum's official words, Ian?
Can I give an alternative thing? So first of all, I mean, just pulling off someone else's joke there. Ron Weasley and Bono looking well on the last photo you shared. I said that guy looked like down and out Ron Weasley, and then other guy said down and out Bono. I am actually going to take a different view on this. I think like this is probably Philip Clement's biggest win from the weekend. I think he's done really, really well. I think he's done exceptionally well because, if you look at all the incidents in terms of the amount of fouling Rangers got away with, the fact Balogun should have had a second card. There were the one where Maeda was put through 1-on-1 and the ball had to be retaken at the exact same spot for no reason. I think he's just concentrated on one out of quite a number of issues that, could be like drawn upon. And I know it's a penalty one, it's a big one. But if it wasn't that, it'd be something else. And he's done really well because he said, you guys need to investigate. And that's what everyone's doing. So, whilst we are quietly going on with the victory and stuff like that, it's hard done to Rangers yet again. It's Philip Clement losing to us, I think it's 6 or 7 times in a row. It's them at their best, failing to beat us at, we'll go on to talk about maybe our worst point of this season. And he's not able to do it. So I think the pressure will ramp up for him for the Derby game now. But I think the way that I would look at this, because I think there is a debate, but I think if it was me, I would want the penalty. So therefore, I would hand in heart say it is a penalty because I would want it in those sort of circumstances, and enough people say it is. But the fact was, it wasn't. We've won the cup. He's a serial loser with a lot of his team, and he's done well to do the distraction. So I think actually give him his flowers. He's done well to distract people from it.
I'll jump in.
If you're trying if you're trying to suggest, and I'm not having a go at you, Ian, but if you're trying to paint a picture that John Beaton and Alan Muir have somehow conspired to assist Celtic, we're through the looking glass and into the twilight zone and beyond. It's just mental. Like they've done the usual mental gymnastics. They could have quite easily come out and said, whistle was blown, first foul. Yeah, we maybe called that too early. We should have maybe played advantage. We didn't. That's the foul. And there it is. It's done and dusted. See you later. On-pitch decisions made. No decision for VAR to be made to make because the game's already stopped. I think the problem is none of us know when the whistle was blown. My gut feeling is that narrative is accurate. Otherwise, VAR will have had a look at it, or there'll be dialogue between VAR and the referee and the linesman. Incidentally, that side linesman had an absolute nightmare. First half, when we were down that end, giving away throw, or when we were defending that end, giving the throw-ins to the opposition when they clearly flicked off their player. He barely got a decision for us all day. And then he's looking at that and his flag's not waving at that point. So clearly there's not the on pitch in real time. There was nothing. No Rangers player claimed for a penalty. Czerny doesn't claim for a penalty. It's a nothing incident until they lose and suddenly they pour over it and there's a new narrative. If the first foul doesn't happen and there's no whistle, then and the game's allowed to flow, then you would think that gets revisited and all the footage is there to show that the contact continues into the box. We all know the rules. Doesn't matter where the first foul is. If the holding continues into the box, then that's where it ends. But I just think it's the usual story. It's deflection tactics, as Ian said, and he has done a good job on it. The whole, it's weird, you guys need to dig into it. My phone's been blowing up non-stop. It's just another one of his ludicrous press conferences. It's nearly up there with the whole, flying feet and, acting it out. That nonsense. But what it'll do is it'll lump pressure on for the next game. I guess the benefit for us is it doesn't, we want to win that game, and I want us to win that game convincingly after this performance. If somehow they get a result and they get a helping hand, it's not the end of the world. We're that far ahead. I don't think it'll make a difference.
By the way, can I just touch on your saying about Beaton and Muir? No, what they've actually done is they've found the assistant VAR guy is apparently there's some sort of Celtic connection, like his wife's has a job in marketing with one of the Celtic media companies or something. So John Beaton, who regularly goes to the pub, Alan Muir, who, it's whatever, they're reckoning that this assistant VAR person is the one that's thrown the spanner in the works. I just think it's one of the older boys in my CSC was kind of talking about this stuff in general a couple of weeks back, and he was saying about how much stuff has changed, how we used to got called paranoid and all this sort of stuff, and we used to actually point out legitimately the refereeing is not good. Even if you take out the bias, the refereeing is not good. There is a level of incompetence. There's no kind of Scotland, the structure is not there to kind of get better and do better because of certain elements. And a lot of clubs complained about it, but because Rangers, old and new, have never wanted to sort that problem out, it's kind of led to this position. And now we've got VAR, where VAR really does take out a lot of the kind of the big mistakes. And what we're seeing is more of the, I would say, general incompetence coming to the fore as well. But they spent ages reveling in the incompetence and honest mistakes, so they've shot themselves in the foot.
Well, that brings up the clip that you wanted me to play, Ian. I remember when Brendan got banned after questioning the competence of the referees after the Hearts game, right? And you wanted to draw that distinction, the irony of it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best, most recent one, right? I mean, we all remember Yang getting sent off, and everyone, apart from one set of fans, was like, "It's ridiculous." And you've got to bear in mind, it's like at that point we were in a real title race, and we went on to lose. We did, I believe, we went on to lose that game, and it was, it really could have disrupted our season and could have led to us losing the title. And what Rodgers basically said was, how can anyone look at that and then give it? And it's been proven, like, over the months subsequent, that there's loads of high boots in our games that haven't been punished in the same way. But at that time, the media were, we had a lot of what I would say is maybe not so neutral media people saying about how, it's the rules of the game and like all this sort of thing. And they're quite happy to say rules of the game and Rodgers should get his ban because they wanted him to be banned from the dugout in Ibrox. Even if you actually look up that tweet on the Sky Sports feed, you can see all the Rangers fans in there going, blah, blah, blah. Like just enjoying that level of incompetence. So therefore, you take it like that, you've enjoyed that, you've not called it out, and you're getting punished by the same incompetence, which is a real delicious irony. But on top of that, I know Brendan Rodgers mentioned beaten, which is maybe the distinction here. But I would imagine, in the other circumstances, if we had Brendan Rodgers coming out saying to the media, you need to investigate this, I would expect some sort of like retribution on the manager, because it's really like it's instigating a lot of things. And the history of what I guess Rangers fans do to referees and people within Scottish football, we could go through a list of things that they've maybe done, but we don't need to. But I would say that's actually quite dangerous to be speaking like that to that support, given their history. So I don't think anything will happen because of kind of all the mire going on. But I would expect if shoe was on the other foot, we'd be getting it.
It's more of a Trumpian approach, isn't it, Paul? Not only make Rangers great again, but somebody needs to look into this. A lot of people are saying on my phone that this. I'm just saying somebody should really look into it, because it's terrible what's going on. Just terrible.
A lot of other maniacs are saying we need to look into it. Yeah, it very much, and it's the narrative they've been leaning. It's hard to say that they've leaning more right, given that fan base, but it does seem they've been lurching towards a kind of MAGA mindset, which, as if they're not already completely unhinged, you want to go down that route too. Long may it continue.
Don't upset any of the MAGA in our chat now, Paul. We've got quite a lot of quite a few Celtic World viewers who are of that political persuasion. And we're not here to talk about politics. We're just talking about how the sort of rhetoric is being painted. Yeah, the rhetoric. Right. Okay. Well, anyway, whether it was a penalty or not, who cares? We've won. Get it right. Basically. But
hold on. But Gav, the other thing that's like top of mind is when Alistair Johnson made a perfectly good tackle in the box, Ibrox, getting the ball that went to VAR, that they reviewed it. The referee came over and saw that Alistair Johnson got a touch on the ball, and then still gave the penalty to Rangers to help them with their moral victory. That's 3-3, if you remember that one. And of course, again, was there any outrage from the Rangers fan over that? No, which is arguably a much worse incident than this, like in terms of it has actually been sent for a review. So, be careful what you wish for, lads.
Well, they got another 3-3 draw, so I don't know what they're worried about. Right, they pretty much won the cup, right?
Did they celebrate with the fans this time? Because they did after the 3-3. That was quite a big celebration, wasn't it?
They weren't around. They'd already left.
Did you see Jerry McCulloch saying they dressed up as chairs?
Yeah.
Is that him said that?
Yeah,
he said remarkably, hats off to Jerry for that one.
Yeah, they said they seem to have all dressed themselves as seats.
Yeah, very good. Another cause for big celebration. We've got 219 people currently watching, which is good. Ian, is that because of you, or because I don't see your Twitter
I did try and retweet it out. I did try and retweet it out. Obviously, I binned the premium.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
I did.
Oh no, so we've got 222 people currently watching, which is pretty good going for us. We channel like us. It's only our second year, So if you don't think it's pure pish, as it says in the ticker that's moving across the bottom of your screen, feel free to subscribe. I say the word free, feel free. That also works because it's completely free content. Nothing behind a paywall. We'll never ask you to pay for anything that you see our people saying.
And it's Christmas. It would be the ideal gift.
It's Christmas.
For us to
perfect gift because it costs you nothing. Costs you nothing. Makes us feel good. It'll make you feel good. Give you a wee
warmth. In fact, send it to someone to also like and subscribe that you think might enjoy it as like a sort of a Christmassy gift.
Oh, that's a lovely idea.
A community internally. Gav, like, last year we gave the viewers a lovely Christmas gift with a wonderful bit of a musical Christmas thing. We haven't done that this year, have we?
We haven't done a Christmas song this year, no. It was a lot of work trying to herd the cats of a Celtic world together to record themselves and send it to me, and then not record themselves in a toilet using a can and a piece of string or whatever people were using. So no, we don't. But funny you should mention music. We may have a couple of little musical treats tonight. So you're never far from our thoughts, dear viewer, dear listener. We want to lay on you as much quality as possible. That's completely free. So please subscribe. Okay, so let's move on to the next section. How are we doing on the January window? Like Paul, you and I have had quite a lot of back and forth recently on WhatsApp. And I just want to talk generally about, do we all agree that we've come off the boil a bit in recent games and we're sort of simmering and we're not hitting the dizzy heights that we were before? That's kind of what I was talking about what was the term I used? Momentum. Form momentum.
Some nonsense I'd never heard.
I was saying like their form is on the up and ours is on the down, and
but in terms of
quality, gap. Yes, there's a wide gap. And in terms of quality, never the twain shall meet. But in those circumstances, sometimes games can get away from you, and that's what I was concerned about going into the final. And I think the final played out kind of as I was concerned about. Never thought we were going to find it easy at all. Thought they'd push us right as far as they could. Didn't think penalties or anything, but anyway. So, even though our form isn't amazing, we're still doing everything we need to do, right? We're still picking up points in the Champions League. We still won that cup. So happy days. And is this a good time for us to face the worst Champions League team at home?
Well, I guess the first thing I would say is this sort of slight off the boil simmering is to be completely expected and shouldn't be a surprise to any Celtic supporter. We ramped up performance to a point where we were scintillating, where we were barely playing 2 games a week and just getting to 2 games a week, and all the form momentum, to use your phrase, kind of came to a peak at Leipzig, I would say, and Aberdeen in the semi-final. 2 fantastic performances, blew those teams away. But you can't keep that on forever, and you certainly can't keep that on forever when you're playing 3 games in 8 days ad nauseum and ongoing, and the weather gets worse. Conditions are difficult to play in, etc., etc. So I'm not surprised at all that where we are. In fact, in other seasons, we'd have dropped points already or lost important games. That cup final could have got away from us in other seasons. So I think it's testament to the manager and the squad that the show keeps rolling on. And there's no winter break this year, so there's no rest. There's no and to take your next point of is it a good time to play the worst team in the Champions League? Well, we've not got them for another 9 games, so there's a lot of football to play. There's a lot of water under the bridge before then. So that's it's in the horizon, and we need to be getting ready for it. But there's 9 games to negotiate before them. Some big games.
9 games. Wow.
We'll need. It was 10. It was 10 including the cup final, I think. So I think I'm right in saying it's 9 before then. There's a lot of football to go, and the window will be open. The squad will need rotated, and whilst we say we've got a big squad and a good squad and the squad depth, and I agree with all of that to some degree, it's in specific pockets. There's areas we're really strong in the midfield, centre back, I should say, even centre forward, particularly with Johnny Kenny coming back and Daniel Cummins, performing. There is potential competition, but we're weak in the wings, we're weak in the full back areas, and there hasn't been the rotation there, and there won't be the rotation there. So there's work to be done, but I don't think there's any work to be done in the window that we didn't already know about. We haven't already known since the summer, and so I think we should be hopefully well placed there's no real, unless somebody critical gets injured between now and the window opener or during the window. I think the work we're going to do in January is exactly as we would have expected over the last few months.
See, I agree with you, Paul. So first of all, yeah, we're not firing all cylinders. It's not a surprise. I think the problem is more in the people that aren't firing all cylinders. People like Kalmak, Hatate, Kuhn, although he's still contributing, gone a little bit off the boil. And I think our issues are maybe the ones that can step into that place aren't as good. There are still some like really solid performers. You're looking at Casper. You're looking at the defence outside the left back. I think I would barely disagree with you, Paul. I think there's a difference between what we need now and what we need long term. So I would say, for example, long term, we need a left back. Like we do need a left back. But if you said to me we didn't make a left back and we had to make do with Taylor and Vi to the end of the season, I'd be like, fine. Where I think we need to probably prioritise is we do need to prioritise in the wing. We need someone for Maeda to kind of give him a rest. Because at the moment, there's not a lot of real rotation there. Palmer's looking as if he's gone. And I think you can also see as well, Kyogo and Ida aren't really firing all cylinders. He doesn't trust Cummings. That's why he's bringing back the boy from Ireland. So I think there's a real need to kind of address the front three. And I would remember the guy from LA, the guy that used to play from Leeds. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was someone who could play the Hatate role and either wing. He would be the sort of, I think, ideal January signing, because that's the bit that we need to inject a little bit of kind of energy into. I think the other little interesting thing is I've seen that Dane Murray's coming back from QPR. So I would expect we'll see Neuropsky, or however we're saying it, Gav, or Welsh going, because I think that's telling that he's come back instead of staying there for the whole year. So no, for me, long term, there are different positions that are needing addressed. I just think for now, for January, I think we need to prioritise that creativity and spark up front to give us a couple more options.
Yeah, I think you're right. Wing or a sort of a player that can play across the front and attack and foot, absolutely. For me, left back's a priority in January, because we don't know what's happening with Vi. Taylor still hasn't signed a contract, and you want to bed somebody in before qualifiers very early in
I'm sure Barca said they're not recalling Vi. I'm sure we had
that. No, they're not. But he will be gone before qualifications, and we're going to have to play at least one qualification tie in the summer. So, given Taylor might not sign a contract, and Vi is likely going to be back at Barcelona, we don't have a left back. So I think a left back signing is absolutely crucial in this window. A KT noise has gone up again because Arsenal are going to release him. He got injured again last night.
You're jumping ahead all the time here, lads.
Fair enough.
I was trying to bring some order to proceedings. Let's pretend we haven't said lots of that and start with who's going to be on the way out the door. Now, a minute ago, Ian talked about injecting some energy. Let's inject some energy into the show, shall we? And he also badly mispronounced a certain player's name. I was on a one-man crusade since this guy signed to try and get Celtic fans saying this boy's name right. Completely failed in that crusade, it has to be said, because nobody does. But this is interesting because we did a little musical thing on Nawrocki, and it harkens back to a much darker time when our signings were all over the joint, and it was under Ange and Lawwell, Mark Lawwell. So let's go back in time to those dark days for a moment to make us feel a bit better about where we are right now. Should we do that?
Nawrocki.
Here's how to pronounce my name. Celtic fans. Celtic fans. Hey Celtic fans, here's how to pronounce my name. It's Mike Nawrocki.
Lawwell, Mark Lawwell,
Nawrocki.
Big Ange. Dilla Lawwell. Big Ange. Dilla Lawwell. Big Ange. Dilla Lawwell. Big Ange. Dilla Lawwell. I wasn't really sure what was going on. I wasn't really sure what was going on. There you go. Those were pretty dark days, weren't they? Looking back at that.
Do you know what? Are you going to be playing the one again, the interview with the boy in CCV? I think that was your most engaged created piece of content. Like that was my favorite. I got lots of personal messages about that one. So nice blast from the past, that though.
But Paul, those were dark days. I mean, the signings we were making then, disasters all around.
There were some worked, some didn't. A lot didn't. What is he, 4.5 for Nawrocki? That who knows how he was scouted, how he ended up in the building. We'll undoubtedly make a loss on him. We make a pretty hefty profit on the majority of players. I assume that Alexandro Bernabeu might end up in this discussion as well. And given what's gone on recently, there's a good chance we might make a profit on him. So
the counter to this, right? The counter to those signings being poor is, I think if you actually remember back to when Ange came in, the players we used that we lost and the size of the rebuild was massive. I mean, we do tend to forget we were like starting with, I think, Urogidi in the centre back position in Ange's first game or something.
Right.
Like there was a lot of
right back.
Yeah, right back. So it was just crazy, like the rebuild. And the difference is, and this is why it's relevant now, is because you've got Rangers talking about the rebuild and like how we spent all the money and stuff like that. Yeah, we have spent the money, but we've actually made a lot of missteps and we've been able to compensate for the missteps because we've saved the money and spent wisely. They haven't. They don't have that luxury, and their rebuild is kind of completely different. So even though there were a lot of mistakes made, and like there were some troubling, some terrible signings, I think you have to say to where we are now. If you look at that as like a period of time and making those mistakes to get to where we are now, it's probably worthwhile because the final state is pretty decent. If I'm providing a counter argument to it.
You're not going to get everyone right, are you? You're just not going to get everyone right. And we've got, in the last 3-4 years, we've got more right than wrong, and the balance sheet proves it. So and the trophy cabinet proves it as well, which is more important.
So you've probably all seen elsewhere the list of names of players that are possibly on the way out the door and who there might be interest in. Which of those do you think is the most likely or the most regrettable? Is there any names there that you think?
I mean, I would like to think
out the door.
Yeah, I would like to think Palmer's going because there's no place for him. I mean, there was a little Glasgow rumour going about that he was having a fish supper the day before the cup final about 5:00, and folks saw him out saying he didn't even think he was like in the squad. So, I think mentally he's probably gone, and it's probably good to get him out and use the wages and money for someone else. We can probably get a decent return, and then I think it's about like kind of the trimming the fat. As we need the left back. If Taylor's going to the MLS, there's an argument to say get the proper left back in, let him leave and stuff like that. But I think anyone that's leaving, I think is someone that is not required. I don't really feel in danger of losing anyone mission critical to the squad.
Yeah,
Taylor to MLS. I never heard that.
Where else is he going to go
for a while?
Where else is he going to go?
Oh,
He must be 27, 28. Like, it's his last big contract. Who's going to pay him silly money? Like, he's decent, but he's not.
And the other rumor in that one again is that he's looking for around about 28 grand a week. I think it is. I think that's the sort of thing. Which is, you kind of think to yourself, he's not, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not an expert in the wages and stuff like that, but 28 grand a week for Taylor, you got to think you could be using that money a little bit better elsewhere. Don't know.
Somebody will pay it, I'm sure, but yeah, I imagine that we can probably achieve.
Watch this now. We'll probably end up at Miami, like inverting and like assisting Messi or something, and we'll have egg in our faces. Oh look! He's setting up all these goals. He's passing it to the best player in the world.
Yeah,
Where does the expression "egg on your face" come from? Why would it be egg on your face?
Is it not something to do with what was he called? Kirk Broadfoot? Did he not like try and cook an egg in the microwave and it blasted into his face and it burnt him all?
That's where the expression "to have egg on your face" comes
Right,
from.
of course. I know it came before that. I just thought it was a nice little throwback to.
It came first. Yeah. Okay. Well, you mentioned Palmer there. Yeah, he's the most obvious one. He seems to be the one who's most frozen out, which is very regrettable to me personally, because I sort of believed in him quite a lot. When he came, I thought he was going to be a real player once he found his feet. And he started quite strongly and has just fallen away further and further away.
He's a square peg in a round hole, though. He doesn't fit in our system. That's the biggest problem. Like, there's a player there. Attitude's questionable for sure. I've said it a lot on this show, and others have as well in other shows. He seems like a player that quite often plays for himself rather than the team. And I just think that kind of player isn't really what you want. But added to that, he's a 10 probably. He's not a winger. He's got no pace. And we don't really play with a 10. He's maybe a second striker. We don't play with a second striker. So as far as our system currently is, and for the foreseeable, he's a square peg in a round hole. And therefore that's added to his issues, is there isn't really a place for him.
Well, there isn't really a place for him, but this is the place, I suppose, then, to make the most of the fact that I did a song on Palma, because we're not going to have many more opportunities to play it.
You're just getting the people that are most likely to leave. You're like just getting them out. Get
them in while we can. Yeah,
I've got to get them in. Exactly. That's the only reason. Now, this was made obviously with a lot more positivity in mind, and it was. I was thinking. I was foreseeing a time when he was a fan's favorite. So it sounds a bit ridiculous, some of it, but yeah, Luis Palma, this is for you. Palma, Palma, Palma. He's a guy from Honduras, and he's come to kick your ass. He didn't fancy the Rangers porque sabe ellos son los hijos de putas. He can score from set pieces. He wears earrings and braces. Around defenders he prances, then he celebrates with silly wee dances. Palma, pow pow. When he's on the ball, the Tims are on their feet. Palma, pow pow. Muchas gracias, Latino boy Luis. You can try to stop him, but he'll skip on by. Palma, Palma, Palma. When he's on the ball, the Tims are on their feet. Not quite. That's not how it went.
Dear oh dear.
Story.
I like Kaiser saying you're sentencing the players to death. So if you can get one for Taylor by next week, that would be much appreciated.
He's not wrong though. The amount of players that you've done a song for, and they've been shortly out the door thereafter.
Yeah, I know. You're not wrong.
I enjoyed the Spanish, to be honest. That was very impressive.
Thank you.
Bilingual.
Buy something. Okay.
Do you see Mahesh is still banging the drum for Palma? I know his stats were good last season, but I think the ship is finally sailed.
We covered that I think a few shows ago, didn't we? As in, like, at that time there was the team was like so badly out of form, didn't know Rodgers' system, there was no one over there, and he was the only one that was performing. And that was good, but a lot has changed since then. And I think his lack of appearance is, I mean, I don't think it's stupid to get rid of him. Rodgers ain't going to use him. Rodgers doesn't rate him. It's as simple as that.
It is. It's as simple as that. I mean, Rodgers' view of a player is really the key thing. The original song, thank you, Paul, as David asks, does anybody know?
I don't. I pride myself on musical knowledge, but I'm lost at this one.
Well, it's a song very close to my heart. The title of it was by, you know who it was by, don't you? Christ, you're going to make me say it.
It doesn't sound like you, though, either.
The song, the title of the song was Belfast, and it was written by Boney M. It was Boney M. Wrote a song about Belfast. The people are leaving because the country's changing and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, pretty incongruous.
It's quite. I was going to say it's quite incongruous to have the serious subject matter and that jaunty tone. It's very weird. Very weird.
Well, the incongruity was part of the reason it was chosen to celebrate Luis Palma at Celtic. So there you go. It all works.
It's very weird. Somebody should really investigate this. My phone's blowing up.
Paul's phone is blowing up. It should be investigated. I've not seen it, but it should be investigated.
All right, moving on. Michel Bigange Balaquisha. He's been mentioned all over the place, isn't he? We were for him in the summer.
Pollock washer, as someone said to me in the CSC on Sunday. That Belgian boy, Pollock washer. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's not his name.
It will be.
He's.
What do we think of this?
He's only because I did look at this during the week because I remembered that we were in for him and knowing that was the position. I think on the 8th of December, I think he came on for like the last 20 minutes, and that was his first minutes back since the injury that he got that I think scuppered his move. Now, at that time, if you remember, we were interested for him around about the 5 million bracket, and their CEO or chairman or whatever was saying, no, it's going to have to be more like, 8-10 million. I think the injury layoff will probably now see it nearer the 5, but I believe it's us and Rennes that are the noted interest in him. So I think probably what's best is let Rennes have him for 5 mil and then sell us Jota for 5 mil. And it just seems like an easy deal to make.
Well, it's a good point because Jota's fallen completely out of favour there, and if he's on Rennes' radar, it would be a replacement. So they say never go back, but I think it was a match made in heaven, and it's not that long ago. So
yeah, I'd go back.
Either or. I'd be taking reinforcements in that space for sure.
Just want to interrupt the conversation to wish who's the snitch. Try saying that after a few beers. Happy birthday, 70th birthday for Who's the Snitch. There you go.
Happy birthday.
70 and operating YouTube. That's a. I mean, I know plenty of folks.
Ageism.
Who are you? That's a poor show. My mom will be 70 in a few months, and she can work YouTube just about. So
I think it's a rare skill at that age. I'm giving them props.
Plenty of time to learn new skills once you're retired from real work or other work.
Oh, I see that. That's even worse. That is than the ages. At least snitches there just dossing about now. You never know.
I certainly hope he's enjoying his retirement. If he's still
How do you
working,
know he's retired? He might not be retired.
I hope he's retired. If you've worked your days, you want to be feet up by the time you're 70. Happy birthday, Who's the Snitch? Anyway, I hope you have a fantastic day.
Absolutely, happy birthday, mate. Now, talk about never going back. Obviously, brings us back to someone that got a mention earlier, but I mean, I'm a bit sick of this story keeping coming around. I almost want us to sign him so the story will stop. You know who I'm talking about?
Of course.
Obviously. According to Everything Celtic here, Brendanrodgers wants a return to Celtic for Kieran Tierney. And the 27-year-old is open to a substantial wage cut to return home. He's effectively a free agent as his Arsenal deal nears its end. Do you want to even discuss this? If you don't think there's anything in it, we'll just move on.
I
But do you
think
there's
we actually discussed there's loads in it. There's just so much talk about it.
Yeah.
I'd be more surprised if it didn't happen
Oh,
than
really?
if it does happen. But I think there's a number of things, right? I think like if you're bringing in Tierney, Taylor is definitely off because Taylor's not one who can even entertain kind of playing second fiddle after being here. And I think the strategy would have to be something like we sign Valle permanently and say Valle is the long-term prospect for left back with Tierney, who can only play as many games as he's fit for.
Not many. I agree. If you're signing Tierney, you're signing 2 left backs because it's a huge risk. I don't care that there's no fee. I don't care that he's taking a wage cut. He's on 60 grand a week. So even the wage cut, if he's taking half a wage cut, we're still going to probably pay him 25, 30 grand a week. And for me, for a player who has barely played in the last few years, too much of a risk. I love the kid. Phenomenal player at his peak. But let's be brutally honest. We fucked that player. We overplayed him. We pumped him full of cortisol. He'd have wanted to play. We had a duty of care to manage a young player, and he was flogging him for too many games a year. He got repeated injuries. He wasn't allowed to recover because he was a key player. And this is what's happened. We cashed in. We got a big fee, but his career has been effectively ruined by being overplayed and poorly managed as a young player. So if we're going back to sort of maybe make amends for how we did that, fair enough. But you need another left back. And I agree with Ian, whether it's Valle or another young player, you'll need 2 left backs because Kieran Tierney will not be able to play. I'd be surprised if he can play 20 games a season, never mind 60 games a season, which will be expected of him. So love the kid, brilliant player at his peak. For me, that's never coming back. And it's an emotional decision more than a practical decision. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But I agree, there's no smoke without fire. And Rodgers knows the player and maybe thinks he can somehow magic something back out of him. And if you got 20 good games a season from him, if they were the biggest games that you needed him in, great. But I don't think you're not going to be able to guarantee that those are the games that he's fit for. A bit like CCV over the last couple of years, he's not been available for key games in the Champions League. He has been this year. I think it's a massive risk and one that we don't.
It's a massive risk, but then we will always point back to Craig Gordon. Craig Gordon had the same sort of like career-threatening injury and was like written off because of his injuries and stuff like that, and came to us and had. I mean, I don't know if it's the expression, but an Indian summer, like you know what I mean. Yeah. He was excellent. You know, is it worth having that gamble? Is it worth having that gamble?
Bit different is the goalkeeper, though, right? He's not asked to do the same level of workload, running all the other stuff that's likely to happen from the flying fullback position. You know, I'd love to be proved wrong. I'd love to come back and to somehow hit form and fitness. I just think it's a real long shot, and I don't think it's a risk we need to take. Anyone that tells me otherwise is fully with their heart and not their head. And fair enough. Dream on.
Well, can you believe this guy's head? We're linked with him. Cade Cowell, who's an American who plays in Mexico. You heard about this one? This was apparently doing the rounds in Kerrydale Street. American professional soccer player who plays as a winger for Guadalajara. He's 21. He's 6 foot. He's a winger/forward. And he started his career with Ballistic United. That's a good name, isn't it? For a football team.
I'm not surprised that these are the sort of ones that we're getting linked to. I think this is the fact that I can't say his name. I want to say Bollock Washer. The fact that Bollock Washer and this guy who's back are on the radar. I think it's clear that that's going to be a position, and I think that would excite us as well, right? If we have like a little winger, well, he's a big boy, isn't he? But like a winger creative type, I think that's something that will all get us up and excited for the second half of the season as well.
It'll be one or the other, right? It's not going to be both of them. It's not going to be both of them. That's obviously, like you're right, Ian. That's a position we're targeting. I'd say. I can't believe I'm going to say Bollock Washer. He's going to be he's probably the number one target because he was around glass window and obviously got injured. This guy's probably an alternative switching.
Celtic Supporters Club Worldwide tweets new contract for Rodgers in the new year is the rumour. Another 3-year deal. Great news if true. Brendan Rodgers here for 8.5 in a row. Well, that would go against the what would you say, the speculation that we came up with when discussing the coefficient on a recent episode. If you haven't watched that, check it out. It's very interesting. Where we suggested that it was a bloody good time for Rodgers to come in because he had most likely 3 years of Champions League with minimum of fuss. Thereafter, the fuss factor would increase and there may not be Champions League going forward. So would 3 years at Celtic do wonders for his reputation and then he'll sail off into the sunset as a legend? Or will he sign another contract like this tweet suggests?
Is it about that though, Gav? I think, like, see if because he has been back. Let's not make no mistake. He got Engels and Maeda. Those are his players that he wanted. I think if he gets further back in January and the summer coming, I think he's maybe at a place where he's kind of getting the backing and he's a place he wants to be. I know we'll have qualifiers, but we'll go the Champions route and things like that, and hopefully we'll have a decent enough squad to compete in it. You know, where else does a Celtic fan actually want to go? He had the riches of the Premier League. He went back down and tested that with Leicester. He's had the experience of Liverpool. Would he really want to go back because he's kind of done all the stuff that he's done down there? I think, you know, maybe if he fancied like something in Spain or something like that, but that might be near the end of his career. You don't know. I just think he's in a good place. I do think he's in a good place, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him sign an extension.
I agree with Ian. He took the words out of his mouth. Like, where does he go next? You know, I don't see him getting a top 4, top 6 gig in the Premier League. He's done bottom half and punched above his weight for most of his term with Leicester, and then obviously it came unstuck when he stopped getting backed. Yeah, Europe would be interesting for him.
La Liga.
But yeah, is he gonna? But he's not just gonna want to go to La Liga for a middle of the road or bottom half team. Like, what's the point in that unless you just want a bit of a retirement gig? He's got hunger. You can see he's still got fire. He's got hunger. He wants to test himself. And yeah, pretty straightforward in Scotland, but there's always going to be a test. And then yeah, he's got the opportunity to operate in the Champions League.
He's look, there's no secret. Rodgers has got an ego as well, right? So he'll have in his memory going down to Leicester and how the Leicester fans like treated him and with success, and how we treated him with success. You know, I think as well, he's got a very visual example of Ange going down to Spurs, which is a good team, breaking into that top 4, playing the way, doing all the things right and stuff like that, and just gets no respect down there. Just gets no respect, and it's completely different up here. So I think there's a couple of things that maybe make it different to last time, and I think it's such a different league, the Premier League, even in the last 5 years. Look at some of the stuff that's been written about Pep Guardiola and stuff like that, and I think that maybe will be to someone who likes to be the main man sat there in his Tom Fords. I'm just wondering if, you know, would Rodgers want to return there? La Liga, maybe. MLS, maybe. You know, some sort of different lifestyle, perhaps, but I don't think anytime soon.
I mean, I think too much is made of his Spanish language skills, if you ask me. We have our resident linguist, Tony Cassidy, in the chat. He could probably comment on this, but he calls Luis Palma Louis. And he did that with Suarez as well. I think because it was Luis Suarez, and the S runs into, you know, from the end of one into the other.
Yeah, but did he not also call Scott Brown Brownie instead of Bruni?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just
I thought Louis was a shortened version of Lewis. So Louis, I mean, that was just like a bit of a nickname. I didn't think he was pronouncing Lewis without.
Yeah, I don't think clear nicknames are the bar to judge him on, Gav, because I think he's got those all.
Well, it wouldn't be out of character for Brendan to make more of his language skills than he really has, would it not?
Oh no,
not at all. It's not outside of his ability in anything to probably big himself up. Probably talks up his bar ordering skills ahead of the guy next to him. So. He's nothing if not a self-publicist.
Yeah. Okay, look, this is also the Dundee United preview show, 59 minutes and 51 seconds. So I am a pedantic man, John Clements. You're absolutely right. That's all the fun of the fair, you know. How else are we going to fill an hour of chat if we don't go down a few rabbit holes of this nature? All right, then. So
have we got one more song, Gav?
No, just the two. The league table looks like this. That's us at the top. And Dundee United sitting in 5th. Being pretty good so far this season. What's the form look like? Well, it's again 1st and 5th. It's quite interesting. Had a conversation with a Dundee United fan. I asked him for any words of wisdom. He says prior to the aberration of a result last week against Motherwell, United's bogey team, they had the best defensive record outside of the two big Glasgow teams, or the one big Glasgow team and TRFC. We need to get back to that form, especially crosses in from wide areas, which was weakness last week. United quite handy at the long ball. So if they can release pressure and win some second balls, they've Sam Dalby in good goal-scoring form to nick something. Obviously, I then scolded him about his use of the term old firm. He then goes on to say they've scored quite a lot of goals recently, especially in front of the home end. So are we concerned about anything of this game? Do we think our players are going to be able to come back from everything that's been going on and all the hoo-ha and just do a professional job and secure the 3 points?
Absolutely. Short answer is yeah. Like the anomaly in this game, I think for me is we haven't played Dundee United this season yet. Some teams have played each other 3 times in the league, and we haven't played United once yet, which is kind of weird. Obviously, I think this tie was supposed to be played the weekend that we played Aberdeen in the Cup semi-final, so it was postponed. So that game's been pushed into the new year. We've got this. It should have been the second time we played them. So I think we play them 2 more times before the end of January or middle of February. So it's all going to come quite quickly. They've had a decent season. I expect we'll rotate the squad. You'll have players coming in hungry to play. We've had a full week to recover. Obviously, the guys were given a night or 2 off. But we'll be back in business probably since at least yesterday, if not Tuesday. So yeah, I expect us to be bang up for it. It's as rested as we'll be between games until I don't know when. Once we're out of Europe, probably. So yeah, I expect us to be refocused, squad rested and a bit rotated, and be bang up for it. And I'm just grateful that it's a midday kickoff, so it will be a civilized hour. A civilized. So my mum flies in from actually from Malaysia, but via Scotland or Scotland to Malaysia. So she arrives at about 4:00. So I think we will maybe get down to the CSC together and for an 8 p.m. kickoff.
Brilliant.
So yeah, looking forward to
give her our
civilized
regards.
kickoff. I will.
Everyone in the Celtic world. She's a keen viewer and contributor. Somebody mentioned earlier in the chat, Ian, that Brendan, he's divided the season up into these sort of bite-sized pieces, and you would imagine one ended with the cup final, and that this is the start of a new one. And the hope is that we can get back to, increasing the tempo. Right, we've done that and we've gotten through all that. Now it's come on, quick passing, break through the lines. Let's get back to where we were, and we'll start with Dundee United. We don't want this sort of laboursome malaise to continue. Not that it's much of a laboursome malaise, but compared to us at our height this season.
No, I think he does like to, but I think he's going to find it tricky this year, I think, because of the lack of the winter break. So I think it's more kind of, you look at the winter period and you have to get through that tough fixtures of games knowing you've got a break coming up. And I just think there's none of that. Even the Champions League spreads across into the next year as well. So I think his markers, I don't think there's many markers to hold on to. I think it's probably many sets of games. I think after the cup final now, you probably look at the run up to the derby and it's like take maximum points, because that's going to put much pressure on. And then if you win the derby, it becomes a different proposition, So I think there's lots of variables. The important thing is just to win, as it always is, and take the 3 points. I think Dundee United, decent team, decent manager, and I think decent amount of danger when it's away from home. I think we should, if we perform to our best, we should win. I would expect someone like McCowan to come in, who's got a track record of performing well in the Dundee derbies. So why not get him in there? So I think if we can take the 3 points, get a couple of goals and stuff, getting that little bit of roll, I think all eyes will be on the next derby game. But don't take your eye off the next game. But I think that's the next milestone or marker.
Absolutely. That's a nice little view from Wales here. Here's a quick message from a person who's supposedly from Wales.
Hello, lovely boys. I love the Celtic world. I do. Absolutely brilliant. If you haven't already, subscribe immediately.
Paul, any final thoughts from you then before we wrap up the show?
No, I think, as you started to open the show, brilliant season so far. Even when we've not been our best, we've got things done. First trophy in the cabinet. Well set. Money in the coffers. Hopefully add to the squad. Push on again.
Sorry, I was lost in the comments there for a second. Ian, do you want to have any thoughts about the game or generally about where we are at the moment before we wrap the show?
No, happy. I mean, like I said, everyone enjoy this period. Never gets old, reveling in their absolute misery. And like I say, ripping the arse out of them. I expect the penalty thing to rumble on for a bit. So just enjoy that. And then as long as we keep on doing what we need to do, it continues and we can all have a lovely, put it this way, we're all going to have a lovely Christmas and New Year. That's almost guaranteed. They're going to have a miserable Christmas and New Year. And that is a little bit of a cherry on top of the cake for me.
And we'll go out on that. Cheerio, everyone.